Commissioner Longmire,
Yes.
are you employed outside of your duties as county commissioner?
Where you at, your home?
Yes, I am employed. I work at the Gerald R. Ford Job Corps Center in Grand Rapids, and I'm currently a business owner as well.
Okay. Does your employment conflict with your duties?
No, it does not.
Thank you very much. Commissioner, Mr. Nash? Also, the question also is, are you employed outside of, do you have a current employment? And your current employment is West Michigan Therapy. Charles Nash, does West Michigan Therapy have a contract with Muskegon County? And is that a conflict?
No. I am currently employed with West Michigan Therapy. My job does not interfere with my work as a county commissioner. I was a county commissioner when I was working with West Michigan Therapy before my term ended in the last term. And West Michigan Therapy does have some contracts that are with the county. That is not a conflict of interest of my position as a commissioner, but there will be contracts that pertain directly to West Michigan Therapy that I would just have to abstain from voting on. But that would not block me from voting on any other issues within the community.
Thank you, Mr. Nash. The next question is for our state representatives. We only have our 92nd District representative left here at this time, but Representative Wright, Hubby Wright, Public Act 4, also known as the Emergency Management Law, is currently being argued in the Michigan Supreme Court regarding signatures collected from the Michigan taxpayers to place a referendum on the Michigan's November 2012 ballot. Please share your viewpoints or lack thereof on Public Act 4.
Yes, I voted against the emergency manager law when we had it. I was strongly against it. I remain strongly against it. I was glad when the citizens came forward with over 500,000, right, Mary, signatures opposing or asking that that be put on a ballot. And I think it's a travesty of justice that that it was questioned, that the ballot initiative was questioned because of the font size. The font size is supposed to be 14 point. They didn't require what is it, font it is, just what font size. And it varies. If you look on a computer, you go to one font, it's the letters are this big, another font it's this big. They can both be 14 points. So it's a non-issue, and hopefully we will see it on the ballot.
Thank you, Representative. The next question is Mr. Hilson. Is there any other city in Muskegon County that has a prosecutor assigned to do ride-alongs?
I guess it's an interesting question. I'm unaware of any other city that has a requirement that a prosecutor does or participates in ride-alongs. And so, I guess to answer the question directly, I'm unaware of any other city that has that kind of policy.
Mr. Curtis?
It's not a policy.
Mr. Curtis, the question is, why did Tony Tagg assign you to do ride-alongs in Muskegon Heights?
I wasn't assigned. The way that worked was, if you're going to be the community prosecutor for your area, you have to get to know the area you're working in. And I believe that you have to get to know the officers and the community officers also. And to be assigned as a community prosecutor and to simply sit up in the county building, well, I can say I'm a county prosecutor, but what does that mean? It means I don't know anything about my community. You have to get out and get to know the constituents, not just from 9 to 5, but also at night. And I've ridden along in Muskegon, I've ridden along in Muskegon County, I've ridden along in Muskegon Heights. I spent most of my time in Muskegon Heights, and the reason for that was because I was assigned here as a community prosecutor. I got to know the citizens, and I got to know law enforcement to the point where they felt comfortable to call me 24 hours a day if something was happening in Muskegon Heights or they had some questions. And without me having that experience of the officers getting to know me, we still would have that disconnect between the two departments.
Thank you.
Grunheld.
please give us a quick spiel about the drug court, about what the drug court is, and specifically how will it reduce crime and save the city money?
Drug courts have lots of different forms that they can come in. So it also has funding from the state and from the federal government, so it's not going to cost the taxpayers locally money. What happens is that you actually put into place typically guidelines with regard to how long somebody's going to be incarcerated, and you start the programs while they're incarcerated. Once they're released, it doesn't end there. You still have programs and everything else that they are required to go to, that they would be drug tested randomly. The people would actually go out to their place of business or wherever else, help them get jobs in the community, and it's much more of a wraparound sort of situation. You have a high end on their incarceration time now, so that if they fail in the drug court in the community, you have that back end where they can go back and they're incarcerated for another period of time. It typically is longer. Drug courts are a voluntary program for you to be in. They are proven to actually reduce money in lots of areas. Lots of areas.
At this time, we do have a number of questions here. We will adhere to the 30 seconds if you'd like to ask those questions. And we'll start with reporter Michael Thompson from the Muskegon Tribune.
This question is for the judges, or the judge's office, as well as the prosecutor.
Because, let's be in
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. First of all, how do you address the high level of crime that's within the community of Muskegon Heights as well as Muskegon and the inner city? What's your position with seriously addressing the crime, the level of crime?
I think that we have to start before the crime actually happens. I think that we need to do a preventative, not just a response to each time there's a crime where we are now. I mean, Muskegon County's always been tough on crime, but we've never done anything to actually address the underlying issues. And I think it's really clear that the underlying issues are typically mental health issues, and those mental health issues have people who are then self-medicating with drugs, whether they be legal or illegal, and then the cycle begins, and then you have to do they're seeking out the drugs, they're seeking out more money, and the last thing that they can do is actually be productive members of society. They end up committing crimes. So preventative.
Actually, judges have very little to do with the level of crime because the judges deal with the effects of the crime. And crime is really a community social issue regarding education and opportunities for advancement in the community, jobs, mental health, medical care. So it's really a community effort and has to be a community effort dealing with this issue, not just in the courtroom.
I think that a judge, as a community leader and as a public servant, has an obligation to address crime. Mr. Wells is right. We react many times as judges because we are put in a position to be reactive. You know, we address what comes before us. But look, I've invested in my history. You can look, I've been a part of the crime prevention program through the Muskegon Exchange Club. We go in and talk with 7th and 8th graders in every middle school in this county to talk about wise decisions in your life. Who do you hang around? How do you spend your free time? And what personal responsibility in your education do you take? It's in the youth.
Real briefly, I think there's 3 ways that you can help reduce crime. One, be proactive. I agree with the youth concept. For me, my experience has been making sure that kids understand the importance of a complete education, keeping them in the classroom, keeping them off the streets, giving families the support they need in order to support those efforts. Secondly, I agree in specialty courts. In my experience, when you deal with the root causes of substance abuse, whether it be alcohol or drugs, that eliminates or can eliminate some of the offshoots of that, the home invasions and whatnot. Lastly, you send a strong message about continue to be tough on violent crime and the criminals that commit that violent crime.
Specialty courts education. The most important part, though, is getting the community to recognize that it needs to take care of itself also. It's time for the citizens of Muskegon and Muskegon Heights to start taking back and going out and spending the night on the porch. August 7th not only is the primary, but it's also National Night Out. That's night to flip on your light and walk out on the porch. The second that we start to get to know our neighbors and we actually start taking some pride and responsibility in our neighborhoods, the younger people are going to see that. Everybody's going to start to notice, and we need to do that. We have to make them take some pride.